that better now? Yeah? All right. No gobbledygook or whatever that proper word is? All right. Yeah, gobbledygook. All right. So we're going to get started. We had no clue how many people might show up today. And at the last board meeting, the board decided that we would try to combine both a in-person and a Zoom presentation. So welcome to all the people that are on the Zoom presentation. And again, as I was saying, we're very fortunate to have Captain Jamie Allen here tonight. He's going to be telling us a lot about, I think, some baby tarpon and some things that are happening down his way, which is Charlotte Harbor area. And so I'm excited about that. Since JT and I were fishing today in Lemon Bay, and it stunk, literally. A lot of dead fish and not very good fishing at all. Yes. Yeah, JT caught one pinfish about that big. So, and we were fishing spots that we normally go into and, you know, pull out 20 or so fish. So it's just not happening right now. The water was really off color. But the good news is, in talking to Captain Jamie here, that Charlotte Harbor is clear and fishing well for this time of year. I think all of us know that August is not necessarily the best time for catching fish. It's hot. Those fish don't want to cooperate necessarily. It's just like us, you know, on a hot day, do we want to have a big meal and, you know, sit around and everything? So he's going to tell us the secrets, though, of enticing these fish and having some fun down there. Before we get into that, a couple of thank yous. Craig and Les, thank you, gentlemen, for the tying demos today. As always, we appreciate that. And Jim and JT for casting. Was anybody else out there helping besides you two guys?
A couple other guys I didn't catch your name.
Okay, so anyone that did help out there besides Jim Cannon and JT, thank you very much. And for those that were, how many of you were here last month? Okay, there was something I asked you to do for me when you saw a certain person. Do you remember what that was? No, no. What did I ask you to do for Ethan? Thank him. We want to all thank you for everything you've been doing throughout this whole pandemic. You weren't here last month, and I was going through my litany of thank yous, and you were topping the list. And so I told everybody when they saw you the next time to make sure that they say thank you, thank you, thank you. So
I was wondering about that.
Ah, oh, so some people remembered? Oh, good, good. All right. And moving on. Craig, you had an announcement you told me.
The Florida Council show has been canceled. I know that they were talking doing it in March, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But more on that. Also, I think the other one of my weekly classes, probably on a Sunday afternoon, be about 2-3 hours a month. I can't keep anybody's attention for anything. You have to break your own rules. You have to have a specific type of hook, which I will name, and a couple facts that you keep up with the work of, and I'll provide the rest of it. It's going to be on Sunday afternoon. I haven't locked it as far as what Sunday it'll be. And not Schwartz or Coors Light.
Bud Light works though.
I'll put it on did say at the end of, the beginning of November.
November.
Yeah.
Yeah, October, you're right.
Anyway.
Okay, along that, it's echoing again, huh? Not in here? Okay. Can you guys hear me all at home? Still working
Yes.
fine?
Ken, I can hear you. I couldn't hear Craig.
You couldn't hear Craig? All right, one of the things he said was that the FFI conclave has been canceled due to the Delta variant. And so that's one of the things, and Craig will be teaching another EP tying course. And that'll be happening when again, Craig? Okay, he'll be letting us know. It'll be in the newsletter or a news blast, you know, we'll get that information out to you. Okay, we all good back there? All right. One of the other things I wanted to quickly talk about is we had said last time, at least I did, that we'd leave the masking decision up to each and every individual. Unfortunately, with the Delta variant, that's become kind of a difficult point. So we're really strongly recommending until this thing comes to an end that we'll mask up at the meetings. Hopefully everybody's okay with that. We do have some extra masks over here if anybody needs one, so we'll leave that up to you. Obviously, if you don't feel that that's right for you, we would recommend or ask you to possibly just make sure you're at least 6 feet away from anybody else. I think in fairness to them and yourself, okay? So we thank you on that. All right. We have some new members. Could the new members raise your hand for a second? Okay, I'm going to ask you each, if you wouldn't mind, to stand up and just introduce yourself. So we'll put a name and a face together.
Well, part of it.
Part of it, exactly.
I actually joined Macro Spot Issues, I think 8 or 9 years ago, when I first started on fly fishing, but work schedule prevented me from meetings or any functions or anything like that, but changed the career, came out, and I found back in it.
Good.
I'm Phil, by the way.
Bill, okay.
Work for the area definitions area quite a lot.
Well, welcome, Bill. All right.
My name's Ryan Curtis. I haven't been flying fishing long, but learned. And I fly fish in the Elixir River on the beaches, catching snook, small tarpon, a couple of ponds that I go to, catching junior tarpon. I put a video on last week, me catching a snook on the, and I put it on the Facebook page. I don't know if I should have or not, but I did anyway. And I have great fun, and I met some great people doing it. I'm going down to the Everglades next week, and I like doing that.
Super.
Fishing on the river, off the road, on the beach, on bridges. It's so much fun, you know. Anyway, my name's Colin. Anyway.
All right, well, welcome.
I'm from England. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm from England, from Devon. I just want to mention a little bit there. As you drive, seeing drive.
All right. An outing over there. Who else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have go forward, I'll wrap up a month ago,
Well, welcome. Did I see another hand? Oh, right back here. All right. Welcome.
Yeah, my name's Brian Smith. I live on Lake Grace, 27 years, live on saltwater, freshwater fish. So this last year, I just picked up fly fishing. So actually, the first fly fishing experience I did in Texas, because I have a contract in Texas, to go back and forth to. Drop mass there, and then come back home with about a month. Do my best to get some bass up there in the Lake and Ridge Lakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super. Welcome.
Charlie McIntosh, we've gone for the drug scene in Los Angeles 10 years. He's originally from Bradenton, from East Irish. He's got the finger from the right side, he's very eager to learn. And so he has a lot of experience in brought up the brain, not with the fly. So, here it comes.
All right, welcome. Are there any other guests? We're good? Okay, super. Normally we would do fishing reports at this point in time, but I have a feeling that would be kind of lame because we'll get a good fishing report hopefully here in a little bit from Jamie. Yes, yep.
It's actually pretty good life in Sarasota Bay.
Oh, well, talk to us about
If you drive up towards the airport, all those roads dead end on Whitaker. And, I mean.
Whitfield?
Yeah, or Whitfield, I'm sorry, yeah. And that whole area is super alive. So I've fished there the past 3 nights and minimum 5, 6 trout. My buddy was catching huge snow. He's, you know, one of these guys, you know, like really loud top water stuff. But, yeah, it's super, super alive up there. And then Emerson Point as well. I fished there this morning. Caught my first puffer fish on Black House.
I caught a grouper as well.
Yeah, we'd rather not fish one of those again, but also got to do my first red up there this morning as well, and a bunch of trout and everything else. So those 2 spots are pretty alive right now.
So like,
I am a lefty.
That's right out there.
Oh, did you? Nice. Were you in the kayak?
I rode you for this.
Oh, okay.
so Stevens Point, that area, Ringling, Whitfield, that section is clear and
Totally, I've been in the water for literally 3 nights there now, and didn't smell anything, nothing. Of course, it brought my hopes up, so I walked Toledo and then had to leave 5 minutes later.
yeah.
So,
Well, that's good news. Thank you for reporting. Yes.
I've been fishing, the flats on the inside of Big Pass. So, Ted Sperling Park, park there by the restrooms, walk up the beach or up the pass, so you start seeing grass flats. And in the area where it's still nice, and patchy, I've been finding fish, after dark, snow and trout, from large, dark colored E flats. And that's kind of how I've done at that spot this time of year for the past several years. This is working, we never got back to it since that I thought that's figured out that they were staying here.
Okay. No, you didn't see a lot of dead fish?
Local fish, you have like trout, stripers, and all fish from up north that everyone's catching like that. I don't even use local fish for the newsletter, so you can go somewhere, sell them to the here.
Good point. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, yes.
You guys are, I just had the turf with it. Access it from the MCFF bridge. I've never been in there and there were a lot of that in there.
Oh, okay.
I've found, the southern half of Rico Bay, there's so many big, big power boats and everything up to the northern part, chunk big fish. It seems like it's actually flushing them south. And south of the island, right in the middle, is far too shallow for any of those large boats to get into. So, bowling, sand, the kayak, anything like that, you can find some great fish that are rising tide.
The rising tide, yeah.
Excellent sight fishing. I'm investing in there at one was as low as it can be that you can get your boat into there. Start at that point. Once it gets too high, we're a little harder. But it'll sit, you know, undulations.
Mhm. Excellent, thank you, thank you. Mhm. Okay. Okay, super. Yes, you had a,
So actually, speaking of first of the day, I've been going down like a little bit further south, reminding me of kind of like actually up to that turtle, little beach, on the back. And, a couple weeks ago, I went out there, about like snow and deep drought, and it started seeing like, just as the storm was rolling, I started seeing like a bunch of little carpets start rolling. My buddy and I were out there on my little jump boat. He was like this, 15-pounder, jumped off, started to drift back up again. Things got past him, and then that's how I got the first part of my life. But there's been a couple, here and there, a couple little ponds, mostly juveniles, mostly like separate individual fish, but no part here and there, especially actually been looking on things like, probably in the middle of the day, like almost rolling here and there, and then when you get that shot at one of them, sometimes you'll get one to eat, but that's kind of how like last weekend my buddy got his first carpet, and then I got my second carpet. Why? Well,
Is that true? We can throw the grass out in the bay.
so that's the grass out in the bay.
Zamo?
Yeah, and actually there wasn't that much red tide past couple trips we've gone, but then this weekend right there were a couple of dead fish here and there and some dead little. That's the story you're thinking. We got some of the eggs and everything kind of like cold from so we don't know what we have. So it's good for
Okay, super.
So they were taking care of his animal, and just got back to town. Captain of that sailboat said, "Come on in here." I go there, one carpet. They stopped, they didn't get him. They were looking at it every day. I don't just read the guy what they're doing. So that was impressive.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Ethan had a couple of things he wanted to cover, outings, fly swap, and the youth initiative.
Okay, outings on September 8th, we're gonna go try Emerson Point again, hopefully the red tide will stay flushed out by then. We'll hit the water at 8, try to get off by noon, maybe have a little lunch, picnic there on the beach. But from what these guys were saying, it's fishing pretty good, so hopefully it'll all out until here. The platform, y'all know that there's a big flat break out the back, each full of holes got a flag. The goal is to get folks a little bit interactive with the flag. I know a lot of people have a good flag, really like to do so. If you would, next month, and the next month, bring the flag you have, and I'll have to go back there, we'll post the notes, get that flag in there and take the flag away, or do, or can, or whatever, just, get involved, and get in, there's a lot of good numbers here, so people use the fly fishing, so it'd be great for them to, know what you can do whenever you're out, just spot it, with some, sort of line. There's nothing really in the special, it's still our, so, you're not just get into it. Yeah. So, so you take a great mother valley fly, you're setting your fly, and you take it over there to the corner, put it in a little bag with the great colors, and that's for outreach, sometimes in these. Put it in the fly, take it in the water, take it on. You're still catching the fly, but you're sharing. So that's the point. We've been learning before, we've been wanting to get more youth involved, and this is what we're doing. I think we all know. But a lot of us are bored, and we have 10 or 12 rods that we don't use. We've got lives, we've got other things, and in fact, I started talking to the person that I will. you know, we would like to have some youth involved, and there is some financial barriers with getting started on fly fishing. And he said, well, I got a fly fishing set, I'll get it to get to you. So if we can start getting some youth involved, I would like for us to have a spot, an outfit, to get to you. We already give them a free membership if they're under 16. So if they come to a couple of meetings and we see they're really interested, I think it would be a really good thing for us to do as a group collectively to start outfitting them with the first rod. And it doesn't have to be anything that's super festival out there. It will be special for them. It's just a single $600 on that. By the time you ride the rod, the wheel, the line, the leader, the fly, it's all a lot of money. But if we can get someone with, you know, something as simple as this little unsuspected set, or they think you probably got to approve that. I know I do. And so let's collect those, and let's get them in the hands of people that don't even kids in the community that are wanting to learn how to fly fish. And they're not participated in the youth fly fishing camp this summer, and there were 18 youth. And these were probably a little bit more fluent kids. They were behind a lot of the results, set up and everything. They were really engaged. Jacob did sponsored it, and I think he gained 2 or 3 scholarships. So there are kids that we can get kids down here and get them involved in our and so there was a point that you said, good. September 8th.
Any other questions? We're good? All right. Well, thank you, Ethan. Mike, you want to talk about, where's Mike Tanner? There you are. You want to talk about Project Healing Waters fly fishing?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you?
I have Mike Tanner. I've been here for a few years, and I do the Project Healing Waters fly fishing, and it's for disabled veterans. And we teach kite flying, and we're going to get on to log building and various aspects of fly fishing. We've got a lot of volunteers, and Ethan, a lot of people down here come over and help us out a lot when I have our meetings. Our first in-person meeting in a year and a half will be tomorrow night. And we're trying to get our veterans back together again. Hopefully, people come. We're working with this, and maybe Fly Fishers is our parent fly fishing club that kind of looks over us, make sure we're doing the right stuff and everything. We're just trying to get this going, so if we know any disabled veterans, please let me know. In the newsletter at the very bottom, they'll have information, my phone number, Ken's phone number, and about what we're the meeting time, and so forth and so on. I appreciate it if you could pass the word if you know any disabled veterans that would be able to be part of this. We'd really, really love to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I had next on the agenda the raffle, but I think what we're going to do is we'll hold the raffle till the end so we don't keep Jamie sitting here any longer than need be. So we're going to move right into Jamie's presentation, and anybody that did buy raffle tickets, we'll do that at the end. And one other announcement is anybody that wants to stop over at the Mandeville Beer Garden after, a number of us stopped there and grabbed something to eat and drink, so feel free to come on over and join. All right, and Jamie, I'll extend that invitation to you as well. So, all right, Captain Jamie Allen.
Can't give him. Put them in front, put the lobes in front. Okay, yep.
Yep. You here?
I'm gonna pull this down because I'm getting
That's
hot. I'm Captain Jamie Allen. I've been here since 2000 in the Boca Grande area. It's, you know, the question was brought up earlier about red tide and stuff where we are. You know, Ken and JT were in Lemon Bay today, and I had heard that there was quite a bit of stuff in the canals and backed up and dead fish. I fished last Thursday. I fished Monday. I fished this morning. I'll fish Thursday and Friday again this week. Where we're fishing, I'm not seeing anything. I'm launching on 12th Street at Boca Grande. 19th Street is a kayak launch that I think you guys have probably used before. And that's, oh, can everybody hear me okay? Do you want me to speak up a little bit? Use the microphone? Okay. Boo, is it on? All right, how about that? Better? All right, can I just grab it? There. Okay, so, yeah, so we really don't have a lot of red tide on that, say, halfway down Boca Grande, even in the Isles, off from Placida. I'm still mostly fishing tarpon right now. That's what my guys want to do. That's what I want to do. And we're pretty much hooking tarpon every single day on the fly, as long as the weather is reasonable. There's plenty around. Say it again?
Fishing in the past, Boca Grande past?
No, never, ever. No, not if you paid me $1,000 million, I wouldn't. No, not that. No, not there. I just wave at the other people when I go by.
There a few years ago on the sailboat, they were throwing lead.
Yeah, I cross it and just wave at the other people and keep going. No, nothing there. Most of the water I'm fishing right now is at most 8 feet deep, probably on average 3 to 5. Our water is a little off color, but a lot of the water in the sound is clear. We were still sight fishing laid up fish last week. So yes, our water quality is fairly good down there. The canal that I took you and JT to is loaded with juvenile tarpon. I mean, I had 2 guys earlier in August, and the first narrow part was a little hard for John to throw his fly rod, so he threw his spinning rod just because he could throw it in there. Probably at least every other cast he was hooking one. So yeah, there's just jillions of them in there. I don't know how many are in there right now, but there's a lot. Nobody goes in there. There's still fish on the north side, not far from Placida. But the majority of my better fish are being caught in Pine Island Sound right now. These fish are 30 to mid 40 inches, so say 10 to 25 pounds. You can fish them with 9s or 10 weights. They're fine. The little Tidal Creek fish will take poppers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here when we start the presentation. Also, I wanted to pass on that I told Ethan, I told JT and Ken, it's about an hour from here because it's right next to my house. There is a small boat ramp that has a pavilion and the restrooms, and nobody uses it. There's maybe, I think there was 1 car there today, maybe a couple kayakers yesterday. We walked the dogs down there from our house, maybe 400 yards, and you can walk down there and the tarpon are just rolling around in this basin. There's nobody messing with them, so it's a real neat spot. I thought maybe you guys could do one of your outings down there, or if not, just let me know and I'll try to give you directions to it. I had meant to take a picture of it's a lagoon system, and there's a lock that allows the fish to come in, and it has reds and snook and tarpon and bass and black drum and everything in it, and nobody fishes it.
Is that first light or this?
That-
First light or?
No, you know I'm not getting up early. You could never get tired of smacking him. Anyway, no, I fish at 8, 7:30 is pretty early for me, and I'm not walking the dogs that early. So I'm sure there's even more activity, at first light. But I know there's it's part of South Gulf Cove. I'm not sure, maybe some of you know where it is. There's a South Gulf Cove web, Facebook page, and people are posting stuff from their docks all the time with exceptional snook, lots of tarpon, small redfish, kind of a nice mixture of everything.
There's a sign for it on, I'm guessing.
Yes, there is. Yeah, you can turn on Appleton, and there's a little brown sign that says boat ramp. And you'll turn north a little bit and then take the first right, and it's right there in front of you. It's a pretty neat spot. I have fished it in the past when the weather was really horrible, and because it's all protected, and it's a mostly slow zone area. There's one area that you can get on plane, but you can launch a boat or kayak.
All the way to the back. All the way in the back.
Yes, in the back. We call that the lagoon or something like that. The lock is at the north end of it. It's quite big. There's a lot of water there. You could put 20 people in there and just spread out, and you'd be fine. But the basin right in the front is probably about the size of 6 football fields, and I can just see him there. There's a nice gentleman that brings his 2 kids down on Sunday mornings, and they fish for bluegill or whatever, and the tarpon roll, and he said, "Oh yeah, we threw a bluegill out there with my little boy, and he hooked about a 3-footer, so off the dock." They're like, "That was pretty cool." So yeah, anybody wants to know where it is, let me know, or I'll try to give you the best directions I can, or we can take a Google map thing of it, or I'll send it to somebody and they can put it on your newsletter.
Ready?
All right, so let's go ahead and start the presentation. Okay, Ken commented earlier that August is not the best time to fish around here. I 100% disagree. I love fishing August, even though it's hot. There's nobody out there. We're on tarpon every day. It's a wonderful time for people that are trying to get, well, when did you get your first tarpon?
Not even, like maybe a few weeks ago?
August.
Yeah.
There you go.
I stand corrected.
No, I tell people all the time, if you're trying to catch your first tarpon on the fly, come the last 2 weeks of July or August. We got plenty of fish. There's no spawning going on. They're only there to eat. There's plenty of bait. Last Sunday, we went to the beach for a couple hours just to play around with my little sweetheart. And there was bait all over the place. You could watch the snook swimming around by our feet. So that was about 14th Street, I think, or 12th Street. And there's a whole bunch of free pullover areas you can get out. You can wade the whole entire island. There's plenty of fish down there. So and you can still snipe fishing. So like we started saying earlier, the little guys are on these little creeks or dead ends and stuff, and they're really fun to fish. I mean, we'll go down to even as low as 6 weights just to make it fun. I'm still have promised myself that I'm going to take my 7-foot 3 weight and I'm going to catch one of those little buggers just to do something kind of silly. The lagoon I was just talking about is one of these areas that is protected from the wind. Because there's houses, and not a lot of houses, but there's a lot of trees and stuff around. It's not really cleared out. So it's quite protected. So it's easy to kayak in there. You're not fighting winds. There's no tide to speak of because it's in a lock. So that's another place you're going to look for. When I fish in the Sound, and that's what I'm doing our best right now, we're fishing these grass flats not far from Pineland Marina. So I think you guys have put in before and kayaked around in there. Those tarpon are still there. They're anywhere from 10 pounds, and there's some that are still 60 to 70 pounds. That water's clear, and you can see them. They get on those sand holes. Even though you can't see the holes extremely well, you can still see the outline of them. What they're doing is they're coming up on those edges of those holes and kind of just making little routes. They don't leave. So if you can get one to roll a couple of times, just sit still and wait for them. Pass it out, make a good cast. If there's a lot of floating grass, let it sink a little bit. Quick strips like you're fishing jacks, and you're going to hook up. Again, there is still some larger fish on the beaches. Not a lot. You'll probably see more next month, as when they start migrating, they'll be coming back down from the north, but there's still some out there. And then, again, the tidal creeks and stuff, the reason those fish are there, and those fish are there year round. They're in there because there's not a lot of oxygen and there's not a lot of predators. Little tarpon understand they have to do one thing: eat. The only way I get bigger is if I eat everything that looks like food. This is the funnest thing to fish with gurglers and poppers and things like that, because if they're rolling around and you throw something in there that's splashing the surface, they'll attack it. They'll miss it a lot, but you laugh every time they do it, so it's real fun. So this is from October a couple of years ago. I was scouting for tarpon. I was scouting for snook and redfish, and I came into this basin just like we were talking about. This is really near close to the El Jabin Bridge. Jeff Lemieux came over with me the next day, and he kayaked over here. I didn't expect to find tarpon. I wasn't looking for tarpon. So I had brought a small spin rod with plugs on it and a 6-weight. Neither was the right tool for these fish. They had pushed mullet up against that shoreline, about 3 to 4 feet of water, and just destroying it. These are the little tidal creeks we're talking about. We're throwing 6 weights here with poppers. You can see here, you can actually get out of the boat. This is in the back of Turtle Bay.
Very good.
And this is the typical size of what you're going to see in a lot of these small tidal creeks. There's a deep hole where it narrows up, so the water does move in and out of it, and that's where they congregate. These are 2 feet long, 3 or 4 pounds maybe. And they'll take, what we normally find is if they're rolling, we like to try poppers first. And then when they quit hitting the poppers, you can put a bait fish pattern on and go down and catch a few more. And then after you've jumped a few, they kind of shut down because it's a really small area. What do they like to eat? The little ones will eat almost anything. But a lot of what we're doing right now is common to what we do everywhere. Because of the rain, we have a lot of tannic water, especially in these tidal creeks. So darker patterns, and I'm going to show you some of the different patterns I tie here. I have some of them up here that you can look at later. Just little stuff, maybe 2.5 to 3 inches is plenty good. If I got some bigger fish, I'll maybe use my 10 weight, but a lot of times I'll just start everybody with a 9 or even an 8. And again, if we're fishing tidal creeks, you can go all the way down to a 6. In these tidal creeks or some of these little ponds, they'll get lots of little bait up along the edge of the mangroves. So they're tiny little, I don't even know what they all are. I don't think they're bay anchovies because it's too fresh. And you'll find the tarpon in there popping and whacking on those. Great time for just any little small bait fish. If it's dark water, try something a little dark or very, very bright also works good. Don't be afraid of having too much sparkle and stuff in it. You just need to get them to something to see it. But strip back. They want it moving. And again, we talked about the poppers and gurglers. So this is kind of an idea of some of the stuff I'm using this time of year. That's the little popper. I always write funny things on it, eat me or whatever. This one in particular, all summer long, probably 95% of the tarpon I caught was on that. And these are adult fish. But there's a variation on the, again, dark water stuff. This is with rabbit. If anybody's interested, I'm going to show you a neat trick or explain a neat trick on how to tie that rabbit stripping so it doesn't foul. A friend showed me this a couple of years ago. It was a simple idea. I didn't ever think of it. What he's doing, and I'll explain it real quick. You tie in a piece of heavy fluorocarbon, 40 or 50 pound, stretch it back, tie your rabbit strip in, you punch a little hole through it, he tows it upside down with the fibers down, and then you bend it to go through the hole, but you make the bend, if this is the hole, and the hook shank is here, the mono comes back and then bends here and then comes up through. So this bend is behind the hole, so it can't slide back and come on, so it can't foul. You know, you can do a peg or you can do a different thing or put a little loop under it, but it can still wrap back to the hook shank or to the bend. This way it cannot, and some of these are tied that way so you can see. It's pretty easy. Okay. Again, we talked about rods, 6 to 10 weights, the gear we use. I'm always fishing floating lines, rarely fishing more than 7 feet of water, a lot of times 3 to 5 feet, even for big fish. 9 to 11 foot leaders, bite tippet. This time of year, we're using 30 to 50. And equipment that doesn't come apart while you're fighting fish.
That was a.
JT.
That was not operator.
I'm pretty sure it was a manufacturer's defect. I'm quite sure. And that's why it happened the next time you went with Ken, so I had a witness.
Same rod.
It had to be a manufacturer's defect. How to feed them. They're up in this. Most of these fish are in areas that have food. There's a lot of pinfish this time of year. There's a lot of bait everywhere down where we are this time of year. But I tend to fish patterns that are either very dark or something that's going to imitate a pinfish, yellowy and flashy. And some of them are, as you'll see or you saw earlier, are quite bright. I use the EP anadromous brushes a little bit to add a little sparkle. It's pretty tough. And a lot of the tails, I either use the rabbit strip, but I probably more than anything, I use the foxtail, where you get by it in a ring and you trim it. It's very durable. People use marabou a lot, and that's nice. It pulses, but fish don't do this. Fish do this. And fox hair swims, it makes a little eely thing. If you build the head up, think about like a top water plug where it kind of walks back and forth. That bulbous head won't allow it to go straight forward, so it pushes it, so it makes that little tail kick each time you strip it. So when you throw at these fish and you pop that across the surface, it's going wick, 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 wick. So it's pushing water, it's making movement, has a little bit of flash to it. They like it. I use the expression, speed kills. You want to get them to eat? Go faster. We were fishing last month and we had fish rolling around and we were throwing at them, and nothing. It was 2 brothers and I said, Bill, go faster. He threw it, fast, hooked the fish, cast again, took the fish, got another fish, landed that one. His brother stood up, made 1 cast, ship, another fish. 3 casts, 3 fish. All we did is change the speed. We talked about the floating grass. Sometimes in the sound, especially, we get a lot of floating grass and those fish are rolling into it. It's hard to make that cast. You make the cast, you start stripping, you're just pulling it right across the floating grass and you're gobbed up and then nothing eats it. But if you let it wait 5 to 6 seconds and then start stripping it, you can usually get 8 to 10 feet before it starts binding up. And if you make a cast on the fish, you get a pretty good shot of hooking them. No trout sets. If you do, you get no fish. And same thing when you're fighting these fish. I see guys, they hook a fish and it looks like they're carrying a flag in the parade and they're up here and there's line all over the place and like, no, keep that rod down, strip, don't worry about trying to get him on the reel. I tell people the fish will put you on the reel. You just keep line tight. Keep it at him about 20 degrees off your target and just keep stripping and let him take it. When he puts you on the reel, that's fine. When he starts, you got a lot of tension on him, then you can go ahead and pick some of that line up and get it out off the deck or out around your feet or out of the water if you're kayaking or wading. Oh yeah, the little guys. They're actually a little harder to keep on than a bigger fish. When you set the hook on these little guys, it moves the whole fish. A big fish just goes, and you get a good hook set. So I tell guys, when you hook them, go ahead and hit them a couple more times. You get him once and hit him and then hit him again and hit him again and keep that rod down until you know he's hooked pretty tight. And he still may come off. You know, they got little bony heads. Okay. I don't know if a lot of you guys use line class or not. I do for my bigger fish for 10 weights and up. And I'll show you if you'd like how I do those. I am mostly using the clear tip floating line. I tie biminis and I do the old school loop to loop. And I'll also show another little knot later that I found I don't really know if it has a name, but it makes a really fine small knot. It's super easy to tie. And if you are using a line class or lighter line to a heavier bite tip, it ends up with a really tiny knot and it's very easy to tie. I'm gonna put this down for 1 second. Yes.
Talking about maybe tarpon on the fast, but not big tarpon.
Not big tarpon, no. Tarpon 4 feet, say under 50 pounds. So I mentioned the floating clear tip lines. I'm not sure if the compound is selling this yet. This is a line from a company that some of us might remember from a while ago that was really bad. It's called Monic. They had a clear floating line. They're one of the first ones that come out with it, and it just broke. It didn't last. You'd use it one day, maybe you hook a tree, you're fishing mangroves, you pull on it and pull it out and the fly line snaps. It was horrible. So 2 years ago, Rick Hess came to me and said, I'd like you to field test some stuff for us. And I said, sure, no problem. And he does that quite often. So he said, yeah. I said, who is it? And he kind of hummed and hawed. I said, Rick, just tell me who it is. I said, it's Monic. And I said, no. And I remember those guys. And he goes, no, a new company bought them called Flowtech. And they design or make the surgical tubing for IV tubes. They make the little, and they incorporated that in the coating on these fly lines. So they're very pliable. They float high. They almost have no memory. I mean, right off the spool, you could take this, put it on the reel, and just fish. You don't have to stretch it or anything. Here's the kicker. How much does a fly line cost brand new? $100. $69. $69 retail. You can order them online if they don't have them at the local shops. I'm trying to get more local guys to carry them. That's all I have now. I got rid of everything. Yeah, that's the Hanley Phantom tip. Yeah, and they have a cold water ones. I don't know if they have any two-handed stuff or not, but they sent me all kinds of prototype stuff. Icicle, I think, which was a colder one. Yes, sir. Nope, just a tip. But they have an all clear, and it's not really that clear. It's kind of a faded white, I guess. It's not like the crystal was that was so hard to see. Cortland came out with that PE crystal a bunch of years ago, and that one was tough sometimes when we're fishing on the beach. If you took your eye off the fly, you had nothing to track it to find where it was, and it was hard to keep your anglers on the fish on the fly and judge it because I couldn't find the fly again. This has, I believe, the Henley Phantom tip has about a 15-foot head, which in the water looks like it's maybe 7 or 8 feet long because it's out in front of you. So it's pretty easy to pick up on it, and it seems to work quite well. Yes. They work great. I've got them in all different weights, and I use them in winter and summer. And yes, sir.
What's that name again?
Monic. Yeah, you'll pass it around. I think there's a picture of it coming up here. Yeah, I know Rick tried to get him to show him some, but I don't know if maybe he just had enough product he didn't need it. But there it is right there. They have a whole different variety. So you don't want a clear tip, you don't have to get the clear tip. They cast great. The only thing they're doing, something like Cortland did it for a while. I think they're 90 foot long. They're not 100 or 105, but they do offer a longer one. But no, I do them straight forward. It's a great casting line, makes nice, easy loops. Very, very easy to cast. All my anglers go, man, I got guys that we're heading back to the dock and we're gonna stop for a beer after fishing, and like, yeah, we already ordered them. We're 10 minutes from the beer shop, and he's like, yeah, we ordered them. And they usually take about 2 days. So I'm very, very pleased with it. This is just some of the other stuff that we're using. It just, you can use whatever fluorocarbon. If you do choose to make your own leaders, I recently switched over from the hard mason to the new SA has a hard mono now. I really like it. It seems a lot stronger. I test every one I make, and I have like about a 15.5 pound weight. And I put a glove on the bite tippet and lift it and make sure it holds. And I have 0 failures on the knots. So I'm going to stick with it. Yeah, I'd like them both. I just saw this clear stuff. I thought I'd try it this summer, and I grabbed some of it, and it's pretty strong, and it knots well with the hard mono. Rain, what we get a lot of this time of year. This is a lot of fishing right after we had a big rain. There's some stuff you're going to see here in some canals that are close to us in Rotunda area that you can fish from shore. You don't need a kayak or anything. This is obviously the bait's up against those cattails, and I think if you throw a fly in there, you're gonna get one. That's throwing poppers, and he jumped right into the trees and broke us off, which happens a lot when it's tight. But these are some of these little ponds. You can see how flat and clear it is. That whole pond is about 2 feet deep. It just stopped raining. I bet you can tell what those are. This is fishing from shore. You can park and walk like 50 feet, and that's right there.
Be a member to get it.
Now that's the Gulf Cove. Yes, a little bit. That's just remember the street name Boundary. Boundary, like a boundary around something. There's a canal system that runs, and there's several little locks and little dams like this. And wherever those waters goes through it, when it rains, they're there. And so are snook and other things. I caught a mullet there one time. But yeah, yes, sir. That's Rotunda. It's like like East Inglewood, right?
Boundary Boulevard.
Yeah, Boundary Boulevard. There's a canal. There's canals all through there, but the ones that have the little locks or the dams on them are on either end of Boundary. One is from the south side. If you come up Cape Hayes Drive and just follow it up, it goes through a little traffic circle and then turns to the right, and that's where that is right there. And literally, you pull over and you walk not even as far as to the windows over there, and you're fishing. I mean, you can sit in the car and watch them rolling. Sometimes I used to live very close to there. I just pull up and park the truck for a second and watch for 5 minutes. If I saw them rolling, I'd jump out. If I didn't, I went home or went to another spot. But there's a lot of these along Boundary. This is on the Upper Harbor off from the Tippecanoe area. This is a man-made pond a long time ago. And I used to fish this when I first moved here with my children. It's again, nobody goes in there. It's probably, you could kayak to it. It'd be a pretty good kayak. It'd probably be 2 miles, maybe 2.5 miles one way. But that has tarpon in it also all year, and snook in the winter. But this time of year, that's kind of the average fish there, say 30 inches or so. Tippecanoe. It's off in Tippecanoe. We're talking about our youth guys. I'm really tickled. I've got a lot of young guys fishing with me now. This fish looks a lot bigger than it is. He's 14. It's his first fly trip. He got into fly fishing. He lives on the East Coast. His dad doesn't have any desire to do it. He said, "Would you take my son without me?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine." And I asked the dad, I said, "What do you want? What does he think he wants to do?" He goes, "Oh, he'll just catch anything. He doesn't care." I was like, "All right." So I get in the boat with young Tucker and I said, what do you want to do, Tucker? And he goes, I want to catch a tarpon. Like, all right. Well, that's about an hour after we left the dock. And that's down in Pine Island. Same thing, 16-year-old guy. He was actually a very good caster. He's had some experience. Made one cast, a backhand. That was his first fish on fly. This is 6 or 7 minutes from the Placida boat ramp. People drive by this all the time. Those fish are there all this time of year, and everybody just zips right by. People say, what are you doing over there? Or, you know, we were trying to catch a trout. And there's a bunch of tarpon there, especially this time of year. That's that creek where you and JT went, where he had failure number. Hey, that's this is a young gal, Katie from Denver. She loves to fly fish. Super fun gal. Cute as a button. She's actually this is how you know you got a good girl. She calls me or texted me like about a month ago and said, I need to reserve May 20th of next year. Okay. As well, I'm getting married that day and I want to go fishing before the wedding. I said, you got it, girl. So yeah, I've been fishing with her for quite a few years now, and she's really come along. Her boyfriend or fiance fly fishes also. They're from Colorado, and what's that? It's a good fish. Yeah. Well, she's kind of skinny. So this is August. Guys from New York and Maryland. This was a couple of weeks ago when we had that really nasty storm that came in that blew. Literally, I had my glasses like this. I had my back to the wind. We went into Pineland Marina to try to get out of it, and it blew my glasses right off my head. This was just before that second one came. See the alien up there? That's actually a piece of grass that came flying off the fly line because it was floating grass. It took me a while to figure out what it was, but I'd done a burst picture and I could see the grass kind of flying up. So that's, you know, it's pretty typical one of down there right now. Again, this is the little backwater stuff. I mean, they're pretty happy, and you can see this isn't really early in the morning. The one that eats. He's active. They're showing a lot. They're rolling a lot. Bigger fish are free jumping. The more they present themselves on the surface, usually the happier and the more likely they are to eat. A lot of them, because the water's hot, they're not going back down to the bottom. They'll come up and roll. Some will go down, but a lot of times they'll come up, or they'll come up in groups, and there'll be one coming up. And the trick is, especially if you can get multiples, it's so much easier to hook them. As soon as you see one roll, whether you're casted or already or not, pick up if you can, and as quickly as possible, get to where that fish just rolled. I mean, put it right on them. Don't try to lead them. These rolling fish are not moving a lot. They're in these little pockets, and if they might move 5 or 6 feet, but if you can get that fly to where that fish rolled, chances are there's another one with him that's coming up. That fly's sinking, and they'll a lot of times eat it without it even being moved. You'll see a big, even in the dark water, you can see that chrome flash, and they turn and take it. And then just strip hard. This is a couple brothers from Colorado. This was a guy that said strip faster, and 1, 2, 3 casts and 3 fish hooked. This is down in Pine Island Sound. Again, you can see it's very calm. It's very easy to see the fish rolling. You hooked fish here. That's where you were that day you didn't feel so good.
Switching the rod around to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we
Yeah, whatever way the fish is going, pull the opposite direction. He doesn't like that. Try to roll them over, turn them. pull them backwards. You can't hear it in the sound of this, but Nick, we gave him a lot of heck for this because he was he'd been a rep for a long time, and he was having trouble dealing with the fish. And I told him to tighten the drag, and he's like, "I can't. I'm trying to hold on. I can't do it." And if you heard the video, you could hear me saying, "You big sissy." And I had to come down there and tighten his drag for him. But, so anyways, those two brothers, so we had a lot of fun. We got so that's pretty much it. JT just asked me to talk about bowing to the fish. There's a couple ways to look at that or think about that. Generally with our bigger fish, yes, as he comes up and jumps, we want to give him a little play. If there's too much tension on it, their mouths are hard enough that if he gets that head moving sideways and that hook's not really buried deep, it will come out. But I found that if you fight these fish with your rod tip below your chest or waist, keeping it the tip down in this area where you're already out in front of them and the rod's already out in front of you, you don't have to exaggerate so much. You just have to push your hands in a little bit. It comes up just a little bit. And you'll find you'll keep a lot more fish on by doing that. You're also going to have a tighter connection because you're staying only 20 degrees off your target. So you're putting more pressure. You're fighting with the back of the rod, not the front of the rod. I want the front of the rod to be in a straight line. I don't want it to bend until I'm in the back half. Any questions?
What are you doing tomorrow?
Fishing. I fish a lot of areas down there. Some of those fish that you saw there were caught not far from Pineland Marina. There's a number of keys around there, and there's a hand. Yeah, but yeah, that water is most of that water is 4 or 5 feet that where the tarpon are. But yeah, there's a lot of skinny water there, especially in the winter. This time of year, we've got quite a bit of water because of the rain. So you can kind of get around pretty easy. It's not that big a deal if you have a flats boat. Yes, they're in there right now. Yes, sir.
When I'm on my own, I usually move around the trolling motor. We found that makes the difference getting on tarpon in particular with the trolling motor.
When you're by yourself, it's hard. So without a trolling motor, you're kind of, you can do it, but it's really hard. I don't use a trolling motor ever, but I'm pulling. I don't, the front is just the part that the boat that I see when I climb on to get into the boat to go drive. I don't get to really, the casting stuff, I know, I don't get to do that.
I don't have much of a problem with getting on snook and redfish. It's pretty safe.
Depends on the depth of the water. If you got, a little chop or a little wind, you're pretty safe. Just using it on lower speeds and try not to just go slow and then turn it off and just let the boat coast. Just like if we were poling, I'm going to see a fish. If you're a righty, I'm going to probably put it on the left side of the thing. I'm going to close the gap, tell you get ready, hold the boat. And then, when the fish shows or we see him or we can see it, present the fly. But no, I'm not a big fan of trolling motors.
Maybe Russell wanted to know what time you usually start your trip and how long you run.
This time of year, most of my trips are starting at 8. If somebody has a time constraint, we have to go a little bit earlier, we can do that. Or I have one guy from Orlando that hates to get up, so we start later, and it's his trip. Yes, sir. Somebody had a hand up. Yes.
You mentioned tidal. What about, you ever fished upriver? I live up in Manatee River. All the time, but I'm trying to figure it out.
I have not fished the manatee. I have fished in the Peace and the Mayaka. I guess it would probably be similar. Again, try to find pinch points or those little side canals or what, like you were talking about, where there's those little ditches or whatever.
Are you fishing it like streaming, kind of swinging across?
Well,
most of that river water, especially.
Yeah, and again, the Peace and the Mayaka don't move very much. They're pretty slow because they're wide. So it might be a little different, but yes, Yeah, you'd fish it, swinging the fly. Generally, they're going to be nosed into the tide or into the current. So, if he fishes here and the tide's going that way, he's probably facing it. And I'd try to throw it upstream or up current of him and then swing it by and strip it away from him.
Okay.
I'd like to say something. I've gone out with Jamie a few times. He's very low key, very helpful, knows where the fish are. And he will be nice to you, not like he is to me. Nice to Candy Stevens.
That's right.
You know, it's just-
Get used to it.
But he's awesome.
Thank you.
His buddy Josh is pretty.
Josh does a good job
Kinda
too.
wasted on the down.
Oh, so he likes his new nickname.
Oh, you told him?
Of course I did. You know I couldn't wait. Who knows Josh Greer? His real name is Hefty Cray. No, you told me not to. I told him I was bummed that I couldn't take credit for it. But I was talking to him the other day because he went to ICAST, and I heard a lot of people had picked up COVID at ICAST. And he said, I said, did you get it? And he goes, nah, I got too much nicotine, caffeine, and whiskey in my body to get any germs. I said, nothing can hurt Hefty Cray. I said, I think you liked it. I thought it was an awesome nickname. It was like, man, I wish I could take credit for it, but he's now referring to himself as Hefty Cray.
So you can fish those canals down in the thunder on the shore?
Yes, yeah, some of them. Yep. It's not like there's a whole lot to fish.
I know.
You're gonna fish this side of it or that side of it. One of them is a little bit larger, and you can fish both sides of it.
Just drive around.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said.
A friend of mine was to boat 3 Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
And the right opposite the boatyard.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to fish it when I've been working on the boat stand.
Mm-hmm.
But I never did. But I didn't know you could get in there and actually
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah. There's several spots that you can get out and pull over. And basically, if it's not on somebody's property,
No.
you're not in somebody's backyard,
No.
you can just pull the car, truck over, jump out with your rod, and spend. If you see fish rolling, throw at them till they quit rolling. Catch a couple and let them go, and come back another day and do it again. But yeah, right after big rains is really good.
Right over where?
After a big rain,
Oh,
I mean, maybe the rain just quit. Maybe you were doing some stuff over the boatyard and it was pouring,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden it broke. Like, man,
I'm not working anymore, so
all right. Well, then just wait for the rain,
okay.
then go catch fish. Anything else? These tidal creeks are small, so if you're kind of getting used to this or you're kind of new to it, you don't have to cast a long ways. The one where you saw me kind of standing in the water casting, that was a spot that I used to take people, and you don't have to get out of the boat, but if you can get 35 or 40 feet of line out, you can catch fish. And you can catch snook in there. I caught redfish in there. I caught tarpon in there. I have a great YouTube video that's with my younger son. He was 14, and I gave him his first saltwater fly rod, and he was impatient, of course. So we went out and just to catch, Spanish mackerel and ladyfish, and just get him used to casting and hooking and landing fish. And he's like, Dad, I want to go catch reds and snook. We'll go do trout for a little bit. So he caught a few trout. Dad, I want to go catch reds and snook. Fine. So I took him back there, and we got out and we waded in. And he hooked a fish, caught a snook, and we didn't retie his leader. And he hooked a bigger one, and it broke him off. So he was a little mad at me. So I put another one on, and he caught a couple of more snook, and saw a nice redfish coming down. And so he threw to the redfish. Redfish eats it, hooks the fish, the leader breaks. My fault. Okay, of course. Dad, fix it. So I put a fly out of my pocket. I walked back to the boat, grabbed another fly that we were using. Well, he stood in that same spot casting. Give me your leader, tied the fly on that we were using before, So he stood in the same spot for a while. And sure enough, here comes another red sliding out of that little creek, and he sees it, and he makes a nice cast, hooks the fish, goes to step back up onto the bar because it got a little dry, and his feet had sunk in a little bit. But when he went to go back, he just went down. So I'm videoing the whole thing, and he's covered in mud and slime and crabs all over him, and he, help me, Dad. And of course, I'm being a good dad and laughing, but helping picking him back up and yanking his feet out of the goo. And he lands the fish, and we get the picture. So he got a inshore slam his first day with his new rod. You get spoiled when your dad's a fishing guy.
Show that slide with the flies,
Mm-hmm.
selection of flies you use.
Mm-hmm.
The juvies, what flies typically find them?
For those little guys, I'll go down. These flies are tied on a, and this is another thing I was going to mention too. And you guys can come look at these later. We'll put them over there. You can see. Except for juveniles, I'm using a hook I found about a couple years ago. This is a company called Varivas, spelled Varivas. Looks like very vast. I can't remember the guy's name. It's a doctor guy that sets a jillion fly casting records. He helped design them with this Varivas company. They are very, very strong. And my God, they're sharp. I mean, almost every single day, somebody picks himself and is bleeding. But they're brutally strong. When I first started using them, seeing how they're working, I had a trip cancel. Well, didn't cancel. We got out and started to fish, and the guy's wife called and said, medical emergency, ran him back. The water was just getting right with the tide, so I decided to go back by myself and try the tarpon on your own, which, you know, is kind of tough. So I'm poling, and I've got fish in clear water. Anyways, I get it to work. End up hooking 5 fish. The last fish I hooked was what sold me on this hook. They were swimming across the top. They were real nice fish. They were all staying high and easy to see. And they even gave me enough time I could come off the platform, get to the bow. I just had the line and everything stripped out, pick up the rod, make the cast, and occasionally had success with it that afternoon. The last fish I hooked, they'd gone by me, and they were kind of going away, and I decided to just make one more shot at them, and I launched a cast and started stripping. The line jumped out of my hand, and it's like, what the heck? So I grabbed it and started pulling tight. It's like, oh, I got one. Cool, got another one. And so I'm fighting it, and I'm looking, I'm like, this fish is fighting really weird. The hook had penetrated through the scales behind his dorsal fin and gone straight into him and was holding him. Not a lot of hooks will do that. And it did pull out eventually, but I thought, if this hook can drive through the scales of the back of a tarpon, I'm going to keep using them. So that's all I use now for all my bigger fish. But for the little ones, the Gamakatsu SC15s are fine. Any hook, say, I use the Gamakatsu SC15 in a 1/0. That's kind of my go-to backcountry size hook. Sometimes I'll make some little smaller ones and use a little bit of brass dumbbell eyes or something and make them maybe 2 inches long and just either a really black or like a bright pink or bright orange. I just want them to be able to see it. If it's a spot where it's a hole and it might go to 6 or 7 feet, I'll use a little bit of heavier fly. And that package of hooks is up here too. You can take a picture of them or whatever. And come check out the flies, ask me anything you want to know, and I'll explain how the mono loop on the rabbit strip tail works and how to tie it. It's pretty simple and it's foolproof. Anything else? Oh, one more. Yes, I used to live up there. Mm-hmm. They're there right now. Yeah, those little canals that go back into the backside of Riverwood, they have fish in them. A lot of alligators up there too. I wouldn't wade up there. Oh, all the way past 41 Bridge. Yep, all the way up.
Gentlemen, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ethan.
Okay, I'm gonna sign off unless y'all wanna watch the raffle.
That's, that's okay.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you
Jamie,
guys for
Ethan.
joining
That was
us this
great.
evening. And if you can, if you thought of anything while we're doing this that will help us next month to make this a positive experience, let me know.
Good.
Yeah,
Got some
I'd really
ideas.
appreciate,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate having the Zoom meeting. That's,
Not a
helped.
problem. Not a problem. Thank you, guys. I'll see you here next month.
thank you.
Take care, Ethan.